Alabama had 8 players drafted by NFL teams over the weekend. We'll talk about all of them. Plus, Crimson Tide softball ready for the NCAA regionals. That and your phone calls, all right now on Tider Insider Television.
Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Carrie Harris.
And what a weekend it was for a good number of Crimson Tide football players. 8 selections in the National Football League draft, including 2 first-rounders, C.J. Mosley and Ha-Ha Clinton-Dix. Alabama has now had 41 players drafted in the last 6 NFL drafts. That includes 16 first-rounders. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Once again tonight, ice-cold Pepsi Next. All that great Pepsi taste. 2/3 less calories, only 60 calories, in fact, per 12-ounce can. That is good. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm Gary Harris. Well, Rodney, the draft is what we lead off with in our Tuscaloosa Tractor top story.
The best always rise to the top. It's time for the TITV top story, presented by Tuscaloosa Tractor.
It all began for Alabama with the 17th pick in the first round. C.J. Mosley, the senior linebacker out of the Mobile area, going to the Baltimore Ravens, and former Crimson Tider Ozzie Newsome, of course, the general manager in Baltimore. Rodney, let's talk about the draft, and really, if you've watched C.J. Mosley's career, no surprise that he kind of led off the Alabama contingent.
Well, no question about that, Gary. I mean, he's had a stellar career. We look back, we can remember so many big plays that he made throughout his career, going all the way back to his freshman season when he had the interception against Florida that he returned for a touchdown. So, obviously he had a stellar career, and he was expected to go, highly as he did.
Ha-Ha in the first round, 21 overall to the Packers. Cyrus Kouandjio in the second round, and there was a little bit of a delay. Let's take a look at the 8 players that were drafted. And really, if you look at the teams they're matched up with, you can make an argument that it's a good matchup for all of them. As we said, Cyrus Kouandjio hoped to slip into that first round, but he goes to a team in Buffalo, Rod, that's going to switch him over to the right side, but he'll have a chance to start as a rookie.
Yeah, I think when you look at him, Gary, certainly, the experience he had here on the left side, he was a right tackle in high school, so I think, with his versatility, I don't think the transition is going to be that significant for him.
Kevin Norwood, a team player, a winner, and he's going to the best team in the National Football League in Seattle.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have an opportunity early, Gary, to make an impact on that team, and I know with his attitude, his work ethic, and his skill, I think that certainly he's going to add something, another dimension to that attack that's already pretty good.
A couple of defensive linemen, Stinson and Pagan, go as well. Going to talk more about A.J. in a moment, but I do want to mention Vinny Sunseri. Other than maybe Adrian Peterson, I don't know if there's anybody that's come back from a major knee injury as quickly as he has, not only to enter the draft, but get drafted in a situation with Rob Ryan at New Orleans, who loves special teams guys and guys that are smart in that secondary. I think he's going to wind up having a good NFL career.
Yeah, he will. And I think, when you look at him, Gary, certainly he's a hard worker. I think when you look at the effort that he put in after the injury and if Alabama would have played in the BCS championship game, he was determined to be ready to play in that. Maybe he wouldn't have, but it certainly, he did make an extremely quick recovery, and, a lot of that was just effort.
And one of the most talked about players on the third day of the draft, Alabama's A.J. McCarron. We discussed his situation with Phil Savage last week. A.J. had told people that he expected to be either a first-round pick or a second-round pick at the latest. He winds up falling to the 5th round on the third day. And I love A.J. think he's got a chance to be a fine quarterback, but he did a lot of talking, Rod. In fact, maybe he talked too much pre-draft.
He probably did. And again, though, I think, last week, my thought was, and I posted on TiderInsider.com, I thought he would go between the 3rd and 5th rounds. I think, when you look at him, Gary, he certainly has a lot of skills. He won a lot of games. There are some questions about him. And, that doesn't mean that he can't have a successful career, won't have a successful career. But the thing about him is this. He's got to put all that aside, where he was drafted. None of that really matters right now. All that really matters is he has an opportunity. He's gone, and as you mentioned earlier, in a position with the Cincinnati Bengals that he's going to have an opportunity to make an impact at some time. So he's got to prepare for his opportunity and put all the other stuff behind him.
Well, he commented on Saturday to a Cincinnati newspaper that he played injured for that university and Coach Saban. He tried to clarify his comments on Twitter, which you see right here. He said he meant no offense towards Alabama or Coach Saban. Says he loves Alabama and its fans, but now that he's been drafted, he's in a situation in Cincinnati where they've got an established starter in Andy Dalton. As we said, it's time to play football. You know, everybody's got a right to do what they want to do, but I wouldn't mind seeing him give Twitter a little bit of a break.
Well, you're right, Gary. As far as playing with injuries, I mean, this is football. This is, you know, you're talking about guys that are really big and really strong, really fast, and there's going to be, it's a collision sport. There are going to be injuries. Guys play with injuries all the time, so certainly it's not limited to Alabama players and certainly not limited to A.J. McCarron.
You know, Roddy got a lot of credit for going 36-2 with a couple of national championships. Those last two games against Auburn and Oklahoma, he got a little bit of blame. He didn't seem like he was comfortable taking some of that blame, maybe passed the buck a little bit, but as we said, he's in the National Football League, needs to be thankful for that, and needs to show everybody. He says he's got first-round talent. He'll have a chance to show it in the NFL. Well, the drafted players weren't the only ones fulfilling their dreams as far as playing in the NFL this past weekend. 6 former Tide players went undrafted but ended up signing free agent contracts. That includes Anthony Steen with the Cardinals, Deion Ballou inked with the Dolphins, Cody Mandel and Tanae Patrick signed deals as well this weekend. And let's take a look at the entire list. Adrian Hubbard projected to be a second-round draft pick, but he went undrafted because of an abnormal heartbeat that was detected. He said he had clearances from doctors, including the Atlanta Falcons team physicians, but maybe those NFL teams didn't get it. But, Rod, even though he did not get drafted, he goes to a very good team in the Packers that are looking for defensive help, so maybe he'll have a chance to make that call.
Well, it's kind of like Phil Savage said last week. You know, the question with Adrian all along has been kind of like getting it every play, you know, doing what he has to do, maintaining the intensity, and I think that probably had something to do with it as well, as you mentioned, the condition that he has.
We do know this, Rod, whether you're drafted or you sign as a free agent. If you play football at Alabama and you play pretty well, there's a look at the undrafted signees, you're going to have a chance to get with a roster in the National Football League. That's just the way it is. Even a guy like Tanae Patrick, who did not play a lot of football. John Fulton's another one, but they've already signed with NFL teams.
Yeah, and as I look at the list, you know, the guy that kind of jumps out to me there is Anthony Steen. You know, he's extremely strong, Gary. He was, what, a 3-year starter. Started some as a redshirt freshman, as we remember. But, you know, and played considerably throughout his 4 years. And, you know, he's a really significant part of those national championship teams. And I think when you look at him, he's a guy that I think will have a great opportunity to have a really good career as an offensive guard.
All right, much more to come on TITV. If you want to chime in on the draft, you'll get your opportunity in just a little bit. But next, we're talking softball. The Alabama Crimson Tide getting ready for the NCAA Regional, what Pat Murphy thinks about his team's draw. And coming up, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Go ahead and give us a call at the number seen there. Send us an email or contact us on social media. We'll be right back with the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The one, the only Tider Insider TV will return right after this break. That was the reaction on Sunday night when Alabama softball team found out that they are the 2nd overall seed in the NCAA tournament. They'll host a regional beginning on Friday. And Rod, let's talk about Pat Murphy's softball team. A lot like gymnastics, a lot like football. In softball, the goal is to have a chance to play for a national championship. That means to get to Oklahoma City. They didn't make it last year, getting knocked out in the Super Regional. But now they're in position where if they win the regional, they'll host the Super Regional against Missouri. And this team, even though they didn't win the SEC tournament, have been consistent, solid all season long, and look like a serious threat to have a chance to get back to OKC.
Yeah, and you know, if they got the pitching, they've got all the tools again, Gary, to make a strong run at that, you know, getting to Oklahoma City and certainly competing for another national championship. I think last year, you know, whatever happened. They certainly didn't, you know, respond after the national championship. But, you know, I think this team, Gary, seems to be really focused, as you mentioned earlier. And I think that, you know, if they can kind of get on a roll and play really well here, that they're going to certainly have to be one of the top challengers.
Lost in the 7th inning in the SEC tournament semifinals to a very good Georgia team. Alabama beat Auburn in the first game. Georgia went on to win the tournament. So the Tide, as I mentioned, does not take the SEC tournament, but they do get that number 2 overall seed. That had a lot to do with the fact that they were so consistent during the regular season, had a great RPI, played a very tough schedule. Here's Patrick Murphy and Kayla Hunt talking about earning that second national seed.
They put in all the work during the regular season. We won the SEC. We won 7 of the 8 series in the SEC. We won 11-1 at home in the SEC, and that's what got us the number 2 seed. You know, I think we had we either number 1 or number 2 in the country with top 10 wins against the top 10 RPI, and I think that holds a lot of weight for the committee.
There's a lot of great softball programs, and to get a 2 seed is, you know, very good for us, and it's kind of like an honor to be so high up.
Here are the details for this weekend. Alabama expecting a great crowd as always. They'll kick it off on Friday against SIU Edwardsville. South Alabama and USC Upstate will play the first game. Championship game set for Sunday. South Alabama, a really good club. This is a tough regional. Alabama going to have to play well to get through it. Another Tide team is nearing an opportunity to compete for an NCAA championship, the men's golf team. This week, Alabama swept the postseason awards in the SEC, and starting Thursday, the Tide will begin competition in the NCAA regional round. Coach Sewell had a lot of praise for SEC Freshman and Player of the Year, Robbie Shelton. I mean, think about this. You're a freshman, and you win the SEC Player of the Year. How about that?
He's done a great job of fitting in. With Justin turning pro, there were a lot of people who thought that we might take a little bit of a step back, even though we were very senior laden. He's done a fantastic job. He's a #1 ranked collegiate player, and so his adapting to college and college golf has really helped us be the team that we are.
And here's a look at those awards that were handed out. Shelton, Corey Whitsitt, Scholar Athlete, Coach of the Year, Jay Sewell. Alabama's women qualified for the national championship after finishing second in their regional. There's only been one year where both the women and the men from the same school won national championships. 1990, when Arizona State did it. Alabama has a chance this year. Well, a lot of work, though, for both the men's and women's teams still lie ahead, and a lot more TITV work to be done. Coming your way next, we'll welcome your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. The phone number is always 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can contact us via email or on Twitter. We look forward to hearing from you when we come back with more Tider Insider Television presented by Buffalo Rock right after this. It was a soggy weekend down in Baton Rouge, but Alabama baseball managed to pick up a win over the Tigers in the second game of a doubleheader on Saturday. The Sunday game was washed out, so Alabama splits the 2-game series. The Tide will enter its final SEC series of the year at home this weekend against Mississippi State. 2.5 games behind Ole Miss in the West. You hope that rained-out game doesn't come back to haunt the Tide. All right, Rod, let's head to our Med Center phone lines. First up tonight, our buddy Joseph in Tuscaloosa. Joseph, what's going on, my man?
What's up, Gary? What's up, partners? How y'all feeling?
You the man, partner.
Okay, that's all great. Hey, bro, let me ask you this stuff. How many Alabama players you think gonna make the Hall of Fame? How many of them draft day?
Oh my goodness, Joseph, I don't know that we can answer that. You know, those draft picks, I mean, there aren't many guys that get in the Hall of Fame. You know, Alabama's got a pretty good history there. You think about Joe Namath, you think about Derek Thomas, you think about Don Hudson. You know, there are many others, but you know, to be Hall of Famer takes a long, illustrious career. I'm not going to project anybody to get in the Hall of Fame.
I say let's let them get the training camp first, Joseph.
Yeah, but you know what? You keep sending this many good guys to the NFL every year, Joseph, there's a chance that down the road some of them could be Hall of Famers. All right, let's talk to John. John, what's going on, man? John, you there?
Yeah, Gary, what's going on, man?
Hey, buddy, go ahead.
Hey, man, I heard we lost some good players. I was wondering who's going to step in this year. I know we lost A.J. McCarron.
Yeah, John.
Who's going to take A.J. McCarron's place?
Okay, Alabama loses good players every year. It's part of the process. Lose good players, bring other good players in. As far as replacing A.J., we've talked about it a lot here on the program. You know, Blake Sims was kind of the #1 quarterback coming out of spring, but Jacob Coker's on campus now. You've got some other guys, Bateman, Alec Morris, all factor in. There's going to be a spirited quarterback competition in fall camp for that starting job.
And I think some of the other spots to look at, obviously left tackle where Cyrus Kwanjo's gone. I think that's obviously a key spot. And I think Cam Robinson coming in spring practice, the freshman going through spring practice, certainly big big there. Anthony Steen, as we talked about earlier, maybe Leon Brown steps into that right guard spot. He worked there. You look on the defensive side of the ball, obviously you have to replace C.J. Mosley somehow. Reggie Ragland really had an excellent A-Day game and a good spring, along with Trey DePriest inside. Reuben Foster, we know about him. He's certainly making some progress. Sean Deion Hamilton's another a true freshman that came in early that may have an opportunity to play some. You look in the secondary, obviously you've got to do something at cornerback. Eddie Jackson missed a good part of the spring, but Bradley Sylvie really had a good spring. Tony Brown, another freshman. Landon Collins back in the secondary along with Jarek Williams, Geno Smith. Some of those guys certainly offset, losing Vinny Sinceri and HaHa Clinton Dix.
All right, thanks for the phone calls. Let's get an email in from Andrew in Tuscaloosa. Is there any chance Kiffin may play Yeldon and Henry at the same time? Andrew, it's a good question. Obviously, Jolston Fowler has got a chance to be the starting H-back/fullback, but I don't know, Ronnie, but that is an interesting thought. You put Yeldon and Henry back there at the same time and make a defense kind of choose its medicine there. Pick its poison.
I mean, it all remains to be seen. Certainly, I mean, they could do a lot of different things. But it'd be interesting to see exactly, some of the new wrinkles that maybe Lane Kiffin does bring, Gary. And I do think we're going to certainly see Jolston Fowler lined up in front of the tailback quite a bit this year.
All right, interesting question, though, to say the least. Next up, Alabama Hoops has another new player coming to Tuscaloosa in the fall. We'll tell you all about it. He's an interesting guy. And we'll continue with more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the information on the screen on how you can interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Phone lines are open. You can send us an email. You can tweet at us. However you want to get in touch with us, we'd like to hear from you. We'll be back with a show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The award-winning Tider Insider TV, going strong now for 14 years. Stay with us. We're back after this. Anthony Grant continues to work to rebuild Alabama basketball by bringing in new players. Sharp shooting guard Christoph Veredale committed to Alabama over UCLA. He played 5 games this past season at Division II Chaminade before an injury. One of those games against Baylor, he lit it up for 40+. He previously came off the bench for the 2013 Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast team that made that run to the Sweet 16. He'll have 1 year of eligibility remaining. I'm telling you, this guy can light it up. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch for Alabama. But good news, and then I guess you could table this maybe as bad news to some. Anthony Grant has released Nick Jacobs from his scholarship. There was a thought that Jacobs might come back for his senior season. He played in 93 games in his 3-year career. He had been suspended, or actually had taken a leave of absence for the final 7 games of last season. He averaged 7.3 points per game for the Tide. So he is a loss, an inside player, but you know what? Maybe it's addition by subtraction, as Alabama's going to definitely have a different look next season. All right, let's head back to the phone lines on the Med Center phone line system here at Tider Insider TV, and let's talk with Bill Taylor, our good buddy BT. BT, how you doing?
I'm doing, Gary and Rodney. How about y'all?
All right. What's on your mind, BT?
Hey, Gary, what's your, Rodney, what's y'all theory about, Alabama softball? Do you think they got a chance, or we have to play better than what we're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely got a chance. They're the #2 national seed. That tells you how highly they're thought of. If they win the regional, they'll host the super regional. That's always a big key to me, is to play at home. So they got an opportunity. I mean, it takes some luck. I mean, you got to be good. You got to be a little bit lucky, but if they get to Oklahoma City and make it out there as one of those 8 teams, I think their chances will be as good as anybody's.
And they've got championship experience.
That's right.
They've got a championship pitcher. She's the SEC Pitcher of the Year, and I think BT, you never can tell, but I think certainly when you think about the experience that they have, they certainly have to be a team that you would consider one of the favorites.
All our callers call in on the Med Center phone lines. Right now, let's take an email. And this is coming to us from Jerome in Hueytown. Which undrafted Alabama player has the best chance to make an NFL roster? Rodney, I'll start. I know you've already talked a little about Anthony Steen, but I'm going to go with Adrian Hubbard, because I do think that little heart abnormality that he had kept him from getting drafted. I know he didn't always produce the kind of numbers, and there's Steen there that you expect from a guy that's 6'6" and 257 pounds, long-armed. But I think his best football is in front of him. I think Adrian Hubbard's got a chance to be a good player for the Packers.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think you're right on that. I like Steen, or I mentioned Steen, I should say, because I think that, when you look at him, Gary, he's really strong. I think he has the right mentality. I think, he can really be an excellent offensive guard in the NFL. I know that he was, like I said, here he did an outstanding job, and he's one of the strongest players, if not the strongest player on the team throughout a good part of his career. So again, I just think Anthony Steen's a guy to keep a close eye on.
I was really surprised Steen didn't get drafted. One thing that hurt him, short arms, only 30.5 inches. I think the shortest arms of any lineman at the combine. But again, he's an inside player, so it's not like he's a tackle. I'm with you. I think Steen will be a solid pro. Both those guys, I think, are going to make their teams, the Cardinals and the Packers. All right. No more phone calls, no more emails. Again, thanks for calling in. We're ready to wrap up this edition of Tider Insider TV. Next, we'll update you on Alabama's women's golf team, plus give you a look ahead at this week in Crimson Tide Athletics. Stay with us. TITV will be back right after this. Another big week for Crimson Tide Athletics. Baseball at Jacksonville State tonight, and then, of course, the big series against Mississippi State Thursday through Saturday at Sewell Thomas Stadium. NCAA regionals for softball, men's golf down at Auburn for the NCAA regionals, women's tennis in the NCAA tournament versus Notre Dame. So it is a lot going on, a lot of it postseason action, and the women's golf team just right around the corner next week for the NCAA championships. Speaking of that, the women's golf team finished second in Stillwater in their regional this past Saturday, and as I said, that means they'll advance to the championship round beginning on May the 20th. That will be held in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Alabama, a former national champion, and an former SEC champion as well, so the Tide will have a good chance to get it done. All right, that is going to do it for this week's show. If you notice, as always, Rodney and I outfitted from the locker room with original elephant wear. The locker room has become a Tuscaloosa tradition, 50 years since 1964. It's located on the University Strip. Go see Alex Gatewood and the good folks there at the locker room. They'll hook you up. Or you can shop online. I mean, everybody that shops at the locker room goes back. They treat you very, very well. A reminder, you can watch a replay of the show tonight at 10:35, or you can catch it anytime on our website, WVUATV.com. And for the latest from the Tide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, visit Rodney's website, TiderInsider.com. All right, that's going to do it for the show. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks to everybody for watching, and have a good evening. We'll see you again next week.